So a story starts in 1977 with FBI Special Agent Holden Ford. Holden is sent as a hostage negotiator in an ongoing crime scene, where a man without any previous history of violence has taken some people hostage inside a building. His only demand is to talk to his wife. His wife tells Holden that he was not mentally right for some time and wasn't taking his medication. After learning this, Holden tries to calm him down, but the perpetrator shoots himself. Although he did everything by the book, Holden feels that he could have done more, but his boss Sheppard tells him that making sure no hostage gets killed is the top priority, and this was the best case scenario. At the bureau, Holden meets with Professor Rathman and talks about how crime has changed nowadays and they don't really know what motivates people to kill one another. Sheppard introduces Holden to Bill Tench. Bill works in the behavioral science department of the FBI. Bill tells him that he goes around the country teaching local cops about techniques used by the FBI and asks Holden to join him. So Bill and Holden start touring around the country giving lectures to local cops. Holden tells Bill that he wants to interview Charles Manson, but Bill tells him that it's not possible. Bill and Holden arrive in California. During one of their classes, a local cop tells Holden that although he can't get to Charles Manson, he can interview Ed Kemper. Ed Kemper is a big guy and also known as co-ed killer because he kills students in co-ed universities. Ed had killed a lot of girls and then had sex with the corpses. His last kill was his mother, after which he finally confessed. So Holden interviews Ed Kemper. Ed seems like a friendly and a talkative guy who is happy to talk to cops. Ed tells him that he was a regular guy most of his life and is an educated person. He is self-aware and doesn't think that prison can help him, nor can a mental institution, as he had already served some time in a mental institution. He says that his mother had a very negative view of men as she had a failed marriage with his father and had reminded her of his father. Ed goes in detail how his mother screamed at him, how she made him sleep in the basement, pushed all his buttons, locked him, belittled him, and humiliated him all the time. So he humiliated her after her death. During their travels, one day after a class in Sacramento, Bill and Holden are approached by a local detective, Roy Carver. Roy tells them that they have a very brutal and unusual case here and maybe they can help him. This case is about an elderly woman who lives alone and is beaten very badly within an inch of her life. Her dog's throat was slit. She wasn't robbed but groped and assaulted. She doesn't remember anything about who beat her. Holden thinks that maybe a teenager could have done this. They tell Detective Roy to investigate the teenagers in the area. After some time, Bill receives a call from Sacramento Police Department that there has been another incident. A dog's throat was slit, but this time the owner of the dog, another elderly woman, was killed. Holden reassesses that the killer might not be a teenager. This person has gotten a taste of killing and will commit more crimes. So with permission from the boss Sheppard, Bill and Holden travel to Sacramento to investigate the case. They learn about the similarities in the two cases and are confident that both the crimes are committed by the same person. Detective Roy tells them that he suspects this one guy who just came up on the street of the incident and started asking questions, the type of guy who likes talking to the cops. So the three of them go to meet this man. After reaching his house, Holden notices that the suspected guy doesn't have a very good relationship with his mother, just like Ed Kemper. His mother humiliates him and also owns a dog. After seeing some scratch marks on his arm, Bill and Holden interrogate the guy and gets a confession out of him right there. Detective Roy Carver celebrates with Bill and Holden along with the entire Sacramento Police Department who have never seen anything like this. Bill and Holden meet with Dr. Wendy Carr, who is a psychology professor at Boston University. Wendy is impressed with the work that Bill and Holden have done with Ed. She tells them that they need to interview more people like Ed and do a formal academic study about these multiple murderers or so-called sequence killers. So Bill and Holden start recording their interviews for their academic study and interview another sequence killer called Monty Rissell. Monty has killed 5 women. Monty is not a sophisticated person like Ed Kemper. He tells them that his first victim was a prostitute who did not resist rape, so he killed her. His second victim just wouldn't shut up, so he stabbed her. He stabbed his third victim too, but he did let one of the girls go because her dad had cancer and Monty's brother also had cancer. When asked about his childhood, Monty tells them that he didn't have a good relationship with his mother and after his mom and dad's divorce, he wanted to stay with his father, but his mother dragged him along with his elder brother and sister. His new stepfather didn't care about him and his siblings, so they did drugs and alcohol. His new stepfather beat him, and due to this, his eardrum was damaged. He committed a lot of crimes when he was young, so he was sent to juvie. He thinks that if they let him stay with his dad when he was young, maybe none of this would have happened and he could have been a lawyer or something. So Bill, Holden and Wendy analyzes what Monty has said to them. According to Monty, he is the victim. Just like Ed Kemper thinks he did all those things because of the way his mother raised him. So the three of them start looking at similarities and differences between the killer and starts categorizing them. Wendy tries to get funding for the study, and because of her, their little project gets $385,000 in funding. Bill and Holden go back to the road. One day in Pennsylvania, they are approached by a local policeman, Detective Marco Kasich, about a case. This case is about the murder of Beverly Jean, a 22-year-old girl who worked as a babysitter. One day, she didn't came home from her job. 4 days later, her body is found in a dump. Her body is very badly mutilated after her death. Her breasts been cut off and there's an incision from her anus to vagina. Bill, Holden and Detective Mark meet with Beverly's fiancé Benjamin. Benjamin tells them that he got a new house for Beverly so they can move in together after the wedding. Benjamin is not a very strong guy, and when they ask him about his sexual life with Beverly, he starts crying. Holden suspects that this crying might be an act since they stopped questioning him after he started crying. After that, the trio met with Benjamin's mother. Her mother tells them that Benjamin is a soft boy. She says that Benjamin lived with them along with Benjamin's sister Rose and her husband Frank. She also told them that Frank protected Benjamin and also got him a job. At the bureau, Holden tells everything about the case to Wendy and they analyze it. Wendy says that there are two different presentations of the victim's body. One when she was murdered and another when her body is mutilated after her death. Mark calls Bill to inform him that he looked into Frank's past, that's Rose's husband, and he found that Frank was sent to a psychiatric hospital when he was a minor for assaulting a girl with a wrench. So they interrogate Frank after that and also interrogate Benjamin again and learn that Benjamin's relation with Beverly might not be as serious as they were originally told. Mark says that he wants to talk to Benjamin's sister and Frank's wife Rose. After meeting Rose, they see that she has bruises on her arm. Mark tells her that these FBI guys will find it if she hides anything and it will not be good for her baby. So the next day, Rose, fearing for her baby, comes and tells them that at night when Beverly Jean disappeared, Benjamin called Frank for something, and after some time, Frank called her to come there too. She says that Beverly was already dead by the time she went there. She admits that she cleaned the house and the bathroom while Frank and Benjamin went out to dump Beverly's body, and says that she doesn't know who really killed Beverly. So they take Benjamin into custody. When they interrogate him, he says that he saw Beverly under Frank fucking him, but he didn't kill her because she was already dead when he stabbed her. When they question Frank, he denies that he killed her and says that she was alive when he went there. Wendy analyzes the confession of Rose when she admits to cleaning up the house. There she notices that Rose uses the word splashing in present tense when talking about blood and deduces that Rose must be there when they were killing her, and all three of them are together in this, so they inform the police about this. After some time, Bill receives a phone call from Detective Mark telling them that the DA is only going after Benjamin in the trial and is offering a plea deal to both Frank and Rose for their testimony. Since Bill is busy, Holden and Wendy go to the DA to explain to him that the three of them killed her together. Benjamin firstly knocked her unconscious, then Frank raped her, and after realizing he is in trouble, Frank manipulates Benjamin and they kill her. Then they call Rose to clean up, but they realize that Beverly is still alive, so they kill her together. After her death, Benjamin mutilates her body. In the end, DA still goes after Benjamin only. He says that evidence was circumstantial and can't really convince a jury based on these psychological findings. Plus, Frank helped the police in finding the missing body parts of Beverly at Benjamin property, and according to Frank, Benjamin is the one who raped and killed Beverly. He only helped in cleanup. After the case, Holden asks what is the use of their work if they can't explain it to other people. Wendy tells them that they have to refine their methodology and make it idiot-proof, and they need to interview more subjects. Bill and Holden interview Jerry Brudos next. Brudos had killed a lot of girls and amputated them afterwards. He also has a shoe fetish. When they interview Brudos, he denies that he killed anyone, even after presented with evidence, and says that it is all a plot. Wendy suggests that this is a new behavior with which they can classify their subjects, that is, whether they admit their crimes or not. So the next time when they interview Brudos, Holden gives Brudos heels if he talks about his life. Brudos starts talking and tells them that he got his first pair of heels when he was a kid, but his mom burned them when she found out. Since Brudos does not admit to any of his crimes even after confronted with evidence, Holden tries a new strategy with Brudos where he gets him to talk by not directly saying that Brudos is the killer and referencing to the killer in a third-person context. With this, Brudos starts talking about how the killer may have killed his victims. Holden realizes that the questionnaire they prepared for the study doesn't really work on these killers and they have to improvise when interviewing them. Holden goes to an elementary school to teach kids about early disturbing behavior and not being mean to animals. After his speech, a teacher contacts Holden and tells him that the principal of the school, Roger Wade, tickles kids' feet for punishment and then gives them money after the tickling. She has been contacted by parents and she took it to the school board and even the local police, but nothing happened. Holden talks with the local police about it and an officer says that there has been no crime, no victim and no one's pressing the charges, so they can't arrest him for that as the principal hasn't really done anything illegal unless FBI is going to start predicting what people are gonna do. Holden talks with other teachers. They agree that his team interaction activities and his way of talking with children makes them happy, but they wish that he would just stop with the tickling. Holden also talks with some of the parents who say the same thing, that although his methods work, they just want him to stop the tickling. Holden thinks that this is like Brudos, who fantasized about killing women long before he started killing them until he was triggered. What if Rogers is triggered someday? Holden asks Bill for help, saying that this teacher might have a foot fetish like that killer Brudos, and asks, what is the point of all this if they can't apply it to the real world? Isn't it their job to stop these things from happening? Bill disagrees with Holden, saying that this man is a grade school teacher without any record and their job is to catch criminals who cut and murder people and not some school principal who hasn't really done anything. Because of the new funding, the BSU unit starts expanding, so Bill and Wendy start interviewing recruits for the job. They meet this guy, Jim Barney, who came specifically all the way from Atlanta and is very much interested in the job. Bill thinks that he is their best candidate, but Holden says that he is black and his ethnicity might incite a racial response from the killers they are interviewing. Sheppard introduces the team to his friend's son, Greg Smith, and basically tells the team to hire him. Holden goes with the new member of the team, Greg Smith, to talk with Principal Rogers and tell him that it is best for parents to decide whether they want their children tickled or not. Roger tells that it's his way of not being strict or punishing children, and his way has a positive effect on children and it has increased their academic performance too. Although Greg is a little bit convinced, Holden is still not and thinks that if there is a sexual angle, Rogers would be good at hiding it because Ed Kemper was also good at persuading other people. Greg says that Kemper had a history of run-ins with the police, but Holden says that although it's a leap, there is still a correlation. Holden goes back to principal to give him a final warning and tell him to stop tickling or it would not be good for him. Roger tells him that he has been a principal for 15 years, he has never done anything wrong, and Holden is paranoid and refuses to change his ways. After some time, Holden gets a phone call from the school board who are asking for his opinion on whether Rogers should be fired from his position. Holden recommends that he should be let go. Bill and Holden interview a guy called Richard Speck who has murdered 8 nuns in a single night. They try to get him to talk with their normal questionnaire, but he wouldn't talk. Then Holden says, and after that Speck starts talking to them, admitting to all his crime, how he killed them, why he killed them, and how he was dumb enough to not count the number of people in the house and left one alive because he wasn't good at math. Bill tells Holden to lose the tape from the recorder because Wendy might not like his language. Holden disagrees and tells him not to get caught in the semantics. At the bureau, Holden tells Greg to change the transcript notes from tape where his language might not be considered appropriate for others. Greg makes a new transcript where he specifies that the audio was mangled. Afterwards, all of them analyzes what they had learned from Speck's interview. Wendy says that they should be able to differentiate a person like Richard Speck from an Ed Kemper. She says that people like Speck do it in a spree in a single day, whereas people like Kemper and Brudos do a number of killings after specific intervals. Bill comes up with the term serial killer for this series of killings. At night, Roger's wife comes to Holden to tell him the kind of harassment they are facing after Holden got Rogers fired from his job. She tells him that he has ruined her family's life, no one will talk to them or give Rogers a new job in a school, even as a substitute teacher. It has destroyed him from inside because he loved children, and Holden has basically fucked up an innocent man's life. Meanwhile, Sheppard tells Wendy that Richard Speck has filed a complaint that the FBI agents made a public show of him and he was hurt by inmates in the prison because of that. He also says that Agent Holden Ford fucked with his head. Sheppard tells Wendy to hand over all the materials regarding the Speck interview over to internal investigation. Before the inquiry, Holden tells Greg to only deliver the transcripts and not the tape. Bill, Holden and Greg gets questioned by the internal investigation team and the questioning goes pretty smooth. Wendy sees Holden telling Greg about the tapes and start listening to the tape. When Holden and the others come back from the questioning, they find Sheppard and Wendy questioning Holden about his unprofessional behavior and lying to the bureau about the tape. All of them decide to get rid of the tape and not tell anyone about it, but Sheppard is mad that he had to hide something from his own bureau. And after all this, fucking Greg anonymously mails the tape to the internal investigators. Bill and Holden get a case from a town near Atlanta about a young girl who was raped and murdered. After some investigation, they found a guy near the crime scene who was charged for rape in another county. His name is Devier and he agreed to do a polygraph test and he beat the polygraph. Holden says that he might have agreed to do the polygraph just to prove that he can beat it. So Bill and Holden go there to interrogate him. Holden uses all the techniques that he learned from his previous cases and interviews, like carefully placing all the evidence around him to incite a response, talking with him in not a formal language but in a free way like he used with Speck and Brudos, and gets a confession out of him within minutes. After this, the police and the FBI guys celebrate in a bar. The local cops ask Holden about how he does all this and can he teach them these techniques. Holden brags and says that he does it by interviewing people like Ed Kemper and Richard Speck. The next day, newspapers mention that FBI guys who are friends with Ed Kemper use his new techniques to catch criminals. Sheppard informs everyone that someone had sent the Speck interview tapes to internal investigators and it is best for everyone to go forward with the truth. Everyone gives interviews and Holden says that he is the one who told his colleagues to lie and takes full responsibility for everything and walks out from the interview. Holden gets an urgent call from Ed Kemper's doctor as Holden is listed as Kemper's emergency contact. Holden then goes to the hospital to meet Kemper. Ed reads the newspaper where it's written that Holden is friends with him and Ed is happy about the fact that Holden considers him his friend. He scares Holden and tells him that he can kill him right there as no one is around there, but then hugs him. Holden panics and runs out of there and the season ends with Holden having a panic attack of some kind. So this was the main storyline of the series. There are some subplots in the series too. The first is of Holden and this girl Debbie that he meets in a bar. The two really hit it out and their relationship starts getting serious, but by the end of the series the two have broken up. The second is of Dr. Wendy Carr, who is a closeted lesbian. She was in a relationship with a much older woman who discouraged her from joining the FBI full time and to stay at the university for her tenure, but Wendy leaves her and her university job to work on this project. The third subplot is about Bill and his home life. Bill is a married guy, but he and his wife weren't able to have kids, so they adopted this kid Brian, but he was 3 years old when they adopted him. This Brian kid doesn't really talk with anyone, he doesn't play with Bill. One day they even discover one of the photos of a mutilated girl that Bill brought home. The last subplot is about this strange man who works as a serviceman in ADT. We see him at the starting of every episode in the first season. I won't spoil who this guy is, but we see him in second season too. This man is a married man. We see him trespassing in the houses of other people. At the end of the season, he's burning some drawings depicting naked women. So guys, this was Mindhunter season 1. If you enjoyed my work, then please drop a like. If you have any suggestions, then please let me know by dropping a comment down below. My goal is to make a lot of these recaps, preferably before a new season starts. I generally watch English, Hindi, Korean and Japanese anime series. So if you like me to cover some series, please let me know. Thank you guys for watching. Have a nice day.